Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is completely self-funded, produced and edited by me, Nathalie Himmelrich. Consider making a small donation to support the podcast. Go to bit.ly/support, capital G, capital T, and podcast. I repeat, bit.ly/supportgt podcast. Thank you so much. And for more information, please visit Nathalie's website, join the podcast Instagram page, and subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates on future episodes. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich, and I'm your host. As we are slowly moving into June, I wanted to take some time to celebrate. On the 21st of June, 2022, I started this podcast. So it is going to be 4 years that I have been podcasting, and as part of that, I have prepared a mini-series. I think I love mini-series because it gives me sort of a topic, a span to think about it. So I want to welcome you to this very special mini-series. So as the podcast is turning 4 years old, I have been sitting with that number, letting it sink in, because when I launched this show in June 2022, I had no idea where it would take me or how many of you it would reach, how many of you would listen and continue to listen. And also, given the research that most podcasters stop after 3 to 5 episodes, I was just discovering how intense this really was and whether I could sustain it. So to mark this anniversary, I have pulled together the 10 most listened to episodes in the podcast history. And I'm doing something that I have never done before. I'm going to go back into each one, reintroducing the guest to you, summarizing what we talked about, and reflecting on why I think that conversation resonated the way it did. I would love to hear what you think, why it might resonate. So we're going to count down from 10 to 1. Let's start. Coming in at number 7 is one of my favorite episodes, or my favorite guest, I'd say, because it's episode 64 and it is my third conversation with Turiya Hanover. And the topic at its heart is one I return to again and again in this work: the deep and often unexplored connection between trauma and grief. Turiya is the co-founder of the Path Retreats and the transformational process known as the Path of Love, which she developed with Raphael Morgan. She also co-leads a 1-year holistic counselor training for therapists called Working with People from the School of Counseling. Her training spans an extraordinary range of modalities: Gestalt therapy, bioenergetics, psychodrama, family therapy, NLP, hypnosis, somatic experience, ego psychology, family constellation, Enneagram, astrology, and essence work. And she brings all of that, this immense professional depth and profound personal experience, to every conversation. Turiya lost her husband suddenly and unexpectedly at a young age. And later she lost her beloved partner Maya. These losses marked turning points, not only in her personal life, but in how she understands and works with grief, trauma, and the deeper dimensions of being human. She is a grandmother, a painter, and she's writing a book about the rising of the feminine, death as a friend, and the realization of impermanence. I love speaking with Turiya. We both share a passion for healing from trauma and grief, and for understanding the self in a deeper sense. Not just the psychological self, but what she would call essence. That shared orientation is what has made every conversation between us feel like a genuine exploration rather than a performance. So in this conversation, Turiya and I delved into the connection between trauma and grief. to experiences that are deeply intertwined, and yet they are often treated separately, both in personal practice and in everyday life. We explored what it means to grieve, not just from the mind, but also from the body, the essence, the felt sense of who we are. We talked about safety and what it means to feel safe enough to grieve, and how trauma disrupts the capacity for safety in ways that can make grief feel impossible to enter or impossible to leave. We also talked about connection and how grief isolates, and how the right kind of presence, whether from another person or from a deeper inner resource, can begin to restore what loss has fractured. And we talked about essence, the part of us that grief cannot ultimately take, even when it feels like it has taken everything. This is the thread that runs through all of Turiya's work, and it gives this conversation a quality that is rare. It holds the weight of loss without collapsing under it. So, why am I drawn back to speaking with Turiya as a guest? Well, first of all, we have such a common shared element, a love for grief and loss and what it does in the psyche of the human being. And the way we talk is just a flow of one mind, I would experience it. And this third conversation, compared to the first two, is just a more general one, because the first one was really about her life story, and the second one a little bit later, after also the loss of her partner Maya and a bit more time. But this third one really looks at it from that world perspective. And because I have also been part of their training, the work of essence, and how it relates to safety, as you know, my pet topic, my loving pet topic of polyvagal theory, this really stayed with me. And I find this conversation really connects my own practice, my understanding of somatic grief work, and the experience that I have with every one of you when I help you deal with grief and trauma. I think this episode reached so many listeners because it offers something that much grief content does not. It goes deeper than coping. It asks not just how do I get through this, but who am I in the midst of this? And is there something in me that loss cannot reach? So Turiya's way of holding these questions with her warmth, her rigor, with that kind of fearlessness about the darker territories of human experience, it creates a quality of conversation that listeners return to. And the fact that this is her third appearance on the podcast means that many of you already knew her voice, already trusted her, and came to this episode ready to go deeper. So if you haven't yet listened to Turiya's first two episodes, it's episode 4 and episode 26, I recommend listening all three together. They form a remarkable arc of a relationship built through grief, time, and honest conversation. The full episode 64 is where we go furthest. I encourage you to go back and listen to. As always, the links are in the show notes. Which one was your favorite episode? I would love to hear from you. In the show notes, there's a button that says send a text. I'll read every one of your messages. Take care. Until next time. Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to my newsletter on nathaliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Nathalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.